All right, so it's getting a little dark outside, so that shadow is there, but it's not too terrible. So the moon. So we all know that the moon is light in the sky, not because it's producing light on its own, but because it is reflecting light that is hitting it from the sun. And the sun hits all kinds of things and light bounces off. So the only reason we can really see anything at all besides things that emit light like light bulbs is because light hits those things and reflects off. And we have this word called albedo, which is a measure of how much of the sunlight something reflects. So if something was like a mirror, right, and I hit a mirror with some sunshine, all of the light that hit the mirror would be reflected. So the mirror's albedo would be 100%. This is really hard when we're not in class, but I want you to try to think, what percent of the sunlight that hits the moon do you think that it reflects? Okay, is it like a mirror up there reflecting the sun right back to Earth, or is it a little bit darker? And it turns out the moon's albedo is only about 7%. Okay, so of all the sunshine that hits the moon, 7% is reflected. So even as bright as a full moon gets sometimes in the night sky, it's still only reflecting 7% of the sunshine that reaches it. If you did the Ed puzzle from yesterday, you may know the answer to this question, or if you read, but if you look at the moon, especially when it's a full moon, you notice that there are kind of light areas and there are darker areas. The darker areas we call Maria. And it is believed that Maria formed as the moon used to have more volcanic activity. And so when a volcano erupted on the moon, the lava poured out and made these giant pools that then cooled into darker rock. And so the Maria are cooled lava fields, basically. And then the lighter areas are called the highlands. Okay, and so then the highlands of the moon are more bumpy. Okay, so the Maria would be pretty smooth because lava would be basically a liquid, and so it would be smoother. And the highlands, though, are bumpy. Okay, so these are the lighter areas, and they are bumpy because they are covered with all kinds of craters and mountains. Also on the moon, again, you can see these with the naked eye, maybe, but definitely if you ever look at the moon through binoculars or a telescope. There's also these long valleys that they call rills. And that is where there was a tube of lava that collapsed on itself. So if we look in the textbook, here are some of these pictures here. So we have these dark spots are the Maria, and the rills, here's this long valley. It doesn't look much like a valley, but it is. And yes, so we have the Maria and the highlands and the rills here. And there's also places where space objects have hit the moon. And they make these big circular pits, and we use the same name that we use on Earth if something hits Earth and makes a big circular pit, and we call those craters. Surrounding those craters, so there's stuff, dirt and rocks and things that used to be where now there's this big hole. So where did all that material go? Okay, so it's usually in piles around the crater. Okay, so we call the stuff that was ejected from where the crater is, because it used to be there and then it was kicked out, it was ejected. We call it ejecta. And so ejecta is the name of the stuff that got kicked out, thrown out of where the crater was. We're almost done already. I told you, I'm sticking to the bare bones here. So after the astronauts came back from the moon, they had a bunch of samples of rock from the moon, and it was discovered the moon is made of almost the same stuff as Earth. And it was not just this idea or brought about by this, but this kind of confirmed what a lot of scientists already maybe thought. So this belief is that the moon formed when early Earth was hit with something. Okay, and hit by something big. Okay, they think it was hit by something about as big as Mars. I'm going to say a Mars-sized object. And Mars is, pretty good size. It's smaller than Earth, but it's huge, right? So something as big as Mars came along and hit new little baby Earth. And all the debris went flying into space, and that debris has mass, and any things that have mass has gravity that attracts them to each other. So over time, all this debris that's kind of around Earth is going to be pulled together and over time form the spherical body that is the moon. So the collision sent debris into space, which gravity pulled together to form the moon. And this is called the giant impact theory of moon formation. So hopefully between the video you watched yesterday and our notes and lecture today, you've got the moon all figured out. Let me know if you have any questions. Bye.